I'm the Max Colley Jr. I need to say it's so nice to see so many of you that I know over past years. I've already been retired 13 years, but I was here last year because my grandson was the drummer in the All-State Jazz Band, so pretty proud of him. He's now at Western in the jazz program there. Anyhow, it's great to see you. I thank you for sticking around. I know a lot of people like to take off and get home early, and I appreciate that you're sticking around. I think you're in for a great afternoon. I'm only going to talk about 10 minutes, and then the wonderful Grand Rapids Jazz Orchestra is going to play some tunes that were selected because they're good pieces of music, and you might consider playing them. They're at a variety of levels of difficulty. And then after that clinic is over, this clinic is over, the Grand Rapids Jazz Orchestra is going to play a concert. And the first part of the concert is to play a piece that we commissioned for this day. Maybe you don't know this, but this is the 50th anniversary of jazz festivals held by the MSBOA. The first one was in 1973, and I was teaching at that time. So it's pretty much been my whole career talking about what I've done and seen and been. But anyhow, it's great to have you here. Before I begin about this brief history of MSBOA and jazz, and I'm just covering that. I'm not covering what's going on in the world of jazz and all that stuff. Just MSBOA and jazz festivals. There are four guys who were the most instrumental, I think. Instrumental, that's kind of funny. Thank you. That's my students who were laughing. That Bill Baker, Andy McFarland, Barry Wentz, and Jack Pearson. Maybe you know those names. Those guys were the people who really had the courage to suggest that maybe MSBOA might be involved with jazz. The MSBOA, as far as I can tell, got started in 1934, but no one suggested that there be any jazz until 1970. And some of the guys I talked to, some aren't around anymore. I interviewed everybody that I quote here, and anyhow, in 1971, a proposal was passed to explore the possibilities of a stage band. They didn't want to call it jazz because it sounds kind of dirty, so they called it a stage band. Stage band. And matter of fact, in 1970, I started the first jazz band at Calvin College, and once it got approved, we couldn't call it a jazz band. I had to call it the Ensemble from 3801 East Beltline. That was the address of Calvin College, and they didn't want to have any trouble with, conservatism in this side of the state, so that's what we called it. But anyhow, the MSBOA suggested that a committee get started to investigate, to explore the possibilities of a stage band festival. And the advisory committee was Fred Bunch out of East Lansing, Jim Cott from Flushing, Jack Pearson from Livonia, Jerry Thornton from Reed City, Barry Wentz from Flint, Andy McFarland from Ionia, and Bill Baker from Warren, Vermont. So those were the people that laid down the footsteps to get jazz going in MSBOA. In 1971, Henry Ford Community College had a jazz festival, and it was not a sanctioned MSBOA festival, but they knew about it and kind of going under the auspices of how can we get a jazz festival going? And I need to tell, I told you that, I think I said that MSU started a jazz festival in 1970 and invited a few high school jazz bands. Some of the guys went and they talked about what was good about this festival and what was not. They're thankful that there was a place to play. But most adjudicators were Detroit jazz players. They weren't used to using proper language sometimes. So, and they might say things like, your band stinks. I got kids in junior high play better than you. I listen to some of the guys thought, well, you know, I think we can do a better job and we better train adjudicators. What's great is that you have somebody that's a jazzer and an educator. That's kind of your perfect person. Well, anyhow, that festival took place, 5 bands attended, and there was no rating, but the best band was picked, and there was a concert at night. The jazz committee decided then to talk to the districts. They were asked to go talk to the districts to see how the districts felt about teaching jazz in their schools. And on the east side of the state, things went pretty smoothly. I have to say, this district right here that I was a member of for 40 years, not too excited about it. Didn't think it should be taught in school. You know, I suppose that would probably be the way that you would think if somebody told you you need to teach punk rock in your class or something, you know. But anyhow, they were not, District 10 not too happy about it. But then Andy McFarland brought his band to a district band meeting, and his jazz band played. I was blown away. I could not believe that a high school band could sound that good. And man, he had guys that could scream and the whole bit. I said, that's what I want right there. I want to get a band that plays that kind of stuff. And they didn't play the, you know, the Art Dietrich little runoff kinds of things. They were like the real charts. Anyhow, the committee continued to meet. They started talking about what are the scores going to look like, the charts, classification, rating sheets. And improv became an issue because most people, as you know, probably many of you in here, unless you're college or university, makes you take a jazz improv class or an improv class or any kind of class like that. What do you know about that? Unless you've had the opportunity to play in a band. So, and they decided to keep improv as one of the areas on the judging sheet, but it would not be graded. It would be comments only, which was a nice trade-off between the people who had difficulties with getting this festival going. Well, I was told by several people when I read the minutes of, I read all the minutes of every state meeting and read the comments that people had to say about this idea of introducing jazz and everything. And I was told things were always cordial, but there was some apprehension and so forth. But I was also told by many people who read that they just wanted to make sure that the festivals were run well, put together well, and that it was a good experience for the kids, just like the concert band festivals were. And the MSBA worked really hard for a number of years to achieve the reputation that it did, and they didn't want these guys coming in and blowing it with a badly run jazz festival. So the first stage band jazz band festival took place on April 7, 1973. So that's 50 years ago. And it was held at Henry Ford College, and it was called, for the first time, a jazz festival. 15 bands came, 3 junior high and 12 high school, and they were all on the east side. No west side bands came. And a really cool thing happened as well. They hired the Thad Jones and Louis Big Band. Now, I don't know what you know about jazz band. That's the premier jazz band at the time, you know? It's just amazing. And so, guest artist was Thad Jones and Louis. And they agreed to do a clinic at 4 o'clock before the concert for the kids to come to. So what an amazing thing. And the MSBOE has always been in favor of doing clinics and teaching, not just having a festival to play. Another big event that happened in 1973 was, for the first time, a jazz band played at the Midwest Conference, which used to be held in Ann Arbor, University of Michigan, as probably most of you know. So there was also a jazz clinic given. And then on December 15, 1973 was a big year. There was a workshop to train adjudicators. And Ken Fenley came representing all adjudicators and what you should be like as an adjudicator. But Bruce Early ended up teaching here at Aquinas College, and you may not know, but he taught at Michigan State for a while, working on his PhD. He and Jack Pearson, who were both jazzers and both teachers, led the workshop. So that was very good. It was also a motion that was accepted that these guys, I don't think there are any ladies at that first one, that these guys had to be, what's the word I'm thinking about? Probationary adjudicators for 4 years before they could be put on the permanent list. Anyhow, that got things going. In 1974, the MSBOA accepted 15 probationary judges. 3 were not accepted. I've never been around where somebody hasn't been accepted, but that's what happened. 1975, there was a pilot program to start combos. And the combos in 1976 became a part of the Solo Ensemble Festival. Later on, it was moved to the Jazz Band Festival. Then I think it was back to Solo Ensemble. Where's it at now? Anybody know? Jazz Festival. So it's moved a few times. Also, there was all-star bands that were selected in the time based on, the judges would, I don't know if you've ever seen a judging sheet, but every kid gets a number. And so the kids would get the highest numbers. Let's say the highest number could be a 25. And you would listen to the recordings of those. It was very tedious, where you would listen. Everybody was nominated by their director, or you'd look at the sheet. And if a kid got a high score, you'd listen, you'd find that kid playing on the tape with his band. And that's how the all-star bands used to be picked. Nowadays, for this, it's done by recording, as you know. Well, one cool thing that happened too was there was the 2 minutes. I'm going to hurry up. Thank you. All right. I'll skip to a couple biggies. In 1976, we got our first vice president for jazz on the executive board. And that was Jack Pearson, by the way. And we'll move ahead. Then we got involved with the Detroit Montreux Jazz Festival, which was a very cool thing. And some of our guys that were judging MSBOA, like Ernie Rogers and stuff, got in there. Then colleges got on the scene really after that. CMU, as many of you know, had a festival started in 1974. They had an all-right guest artist with the Duke Ellington Orchestra. So the largest involvement with big bands coming to our festivals took place in 2001 when we had 106 big bands and 20 combos. That was quite the year. So I just want to say that ever since I was a youngster, the MSBOA has been very important to me. I learned more about how to teach jazz at clinics that were given by you guys, people who've done that here, and people like my good friend Jack Pearson, who is not with us anymore. And I think we did a good job at MSBOA getting jazz going. One of the biggest states in the country doing that. So I got 1 minute, I think, left. Let me introduce the Grampus Jazz Orchestra. If you guys could come on up. Are you hiding? Where are you? Oh, you're behind me. That's a dangerous place to have these guys. All right. All right. I'm going to introduce this group more for the next session after this, because they're going to do a concert and I will talk more about them. But Bob Nixon and Dr. James Sawyers are the leader. Dave Jensen is going to narrate this session. And again, following this will be the Grampus Jazz Orchestra. And they're going to premiere this new piece that was written especially for this 50 years of jazz festivals. So my pleasure to introduce this band.